Hi everyone, I'd like to introduce you to one of our wonderful raptor ambassadors. This is Hoolie here. Hoolie is a great horned owl. She's been here pretty much all of her life except the first 5 weeks. And this is her permanent cage. It's a little bit different than some of the other cages. She's up here actually near the house that Ron and I live in here on site. And she's up here because she's a human imprint. When she was found about maybe just a couple of days old by some folks, they wanted to keep her as a pet, just like in Harry Potter, and that's illegal to do. But they took her home and they kept her for the next 5 weeks. So as Hoolie's eyes focused, instead of focusing on Mom and Dad Great Horned Owl, they focused on the people that picked her up and took her home. So she thinks that humans are like her. So we tried putting her down in a cage down there. There was an indoor-outdoor run like we have here, down with the other raptor ambassadors, but she wasn't happy with it. She kept beating herself up. So we raised some money. We built a cage up near the house. So Hoolie is here. Hi. And she has settled in very, very nicely. She is now, believe it or not, she is 14 years old. We've had her since she was 5 weeks old. She'll live to be around 30 years old. Great horned owls can be found anywhere from the top of North America all the way down to the bottom of South America, every habitat in between. You can find them in deep woods, you can find them in city parks, you can find them on top of mountains, bottom of ravines, out in the desert, next to the ocean. Pretty much anywhere you can think of, great horned owls do a great job of living and doing really, really well. When you start to think about it, that means that great horned owls have a really wide variety of what they can eat. They're what we call a generalist. And so great horned owls, like Hoolie here, can eat small things like mice and chipmunks. They'll go after squirrels and rats. They'll go after snakes. They'll go after some songbirds on occasion. Great horned owls have been documented killing wild turkeys and geese. And their favorite food in North America seems to be skunk. So if you don't like skunks, here's your best buddy right here. They actually have as good a sense of smell as we have. It's just they don't seem to care. I guess skunks must taste really, really good. Most of the great horned owls we get in smell like a skunk, and it's usually fresh. But Hoolie doesn't get skunks because we have to live with her. The reason we have her as an education bird is because of 2 reasons. She's a human imprint. Some people tried to keep her as a pet. And the other problem is that when they tried to keep her, they didn't give her any medical care. And so as she had fallen down out of the tree, she banged up her wing. And so she ended up with some soft tissue injuries that ended up as scar tissue. So she can fly about 20 feet, which is about the length of the cage. And we carefully made it that length because that's what she can do. But if she goes any further, she's losing altitude and she can't control her body. So she is, that's the reason that she's here, and she will be with us for the rest of our lives. Now, great horned owls nest very, very early in the year, usually January, February, somewhere in there. They don't nest like in a hollow cavity. A lot of people expect all owls to nest in hollow cavities. Well, great horned owls are very independent, and they have their own ideas. So great horned owls actually build big stick nests, and those nests can be gigantic. They raise anywhere from 3 to 4 young per year, and they can add to the nest year after year. But they're built in what we call conifers, which are the pines, the spruces, sometimes a cedar, but usually pines or spruces. And they can, the nests themselves can be about 4 feet across. Now, the funny thing about it is that they raise their young in the nest, but the young get so big so fast that they actually pop out of the nest before they can fly, or just as they're barely starting to be able to fly. And so we end up seeing like little white fuzzballs running around the ground. And this is true also of screech owls and barred owls as well. So if you find a baby bird on the ground, particularly an owlet right now, and here we are at the beginning of April, right? If you find a baby owlet on the ground and you're not sure, you can give us a call, 304-466-4683. You can text us 304-575-5024. You can send us pictures. You can send us a message on Facebook, or you can send us a email at trac@tracwv.org. We'll be happy to work with you on trying to get the bird into care if it needs it, and if not, take some really cool pictures and keep your critters away from it. Okay, and try not to go back and harass the little baby. Just like our babies need to go out and play on the playground and run around and strengthen their bones and their limbs and stuff, young birds need to do the same thing. So if we don't need to rescue them, let's leave them alone.
Let's talk some more about great horned owls. Hoolie was small when she came to us, but she rapidly grew into an excellent feathered ambassador for the Three Rivers Avian Center at festivals and fairs and schools. She also liked to do photo workshops, where she was quite the star. When we would do our open house Saturdays, she sometimes would fall asleep like this because she was so comfortable with people, like here where she's hanging out with Wendy. Her cage is pretty big. It has an outside area and a room that's completely closed in, so she has her choice of being completely out of the weather or outside. The outside cage has a stump, it has a bird bath, it has a great big perch, and it has a hutch. Now this hutch is a place for her to retreat to when she needs some privacy. Normally, great horned owls don't live in hollow trees, but Hoolie is a human imprint. She was raised in a house. You can see in the background there where the inside room was visible there. It has a nest platform, it has a big perch, and it has doors that can be closed up completely in case the weather is really severe. A couple of years ago, Hoolie nested and laid eggs in her little hutch.
She's a good bird.
Because she's a human imprint, she was pretty comfortable with me getting close.
She's a hungry bird. Good bird.
I was pretty lucky to get these shots of her tending the eggs. When she stands up, you'll be able to see two of them. There they are, right there. Of course, these eggs were not fertile, so they didn't grow into chicks. Great horned owls will defend their nest against predators, and they will sometimes swoop at people if you get too close. So if that should ever happen to you, bear in mind that you're either very close to a nest, or, as Wendy mentioned earlier, you have almost accidentally stepped on some of their babies, which are running around on the ground. Owls have phenomenal night vision. Great horned owls can see in less than starlight, although they can't really move their eyes much at all, simply because their eyes are so huge in the eye sockets that there's no space for them to move it around at all, and they're fixed facing forward. But to make up for that, they have extremely mobile necks. In fact, they have 14 vertebrae in their necks. We only have 7, but these extra vertebrae enable their heads to spin farther around. They can turn about 270 degrees each way. We can't do anything like that. Owl feathers make it possible for owls to fly absolutely silently. The surface of the feathers is completely covered with this fuzzy little hairs, and the front edge, the leading edge of their flight feathers, is serrated like a knife. And the combination of these serrations and hairs breaks up the air turbulence when the bird flaps its wings. And it's that turbulence that we hear when we hear a bird fly past us. So because the turbulence is all broken up, the great horned owls will fly right past your head and you will not hear them. Feathers also serve as armor, which is a little strange to think about, but they're very slippery, and there's layers and layers and layers of them, so it's kind of like Teflon. And when they're capturing prey, they run the risk of being bitten or clawed. So this thick layer of slippery feathers protects them from being bitten. And of course, feathers are also insulation. Anybody that's ever had a feather pillow or a feathered comforter knows how warm feathers are. And they can regulate their body temperatures by opening their feathers out and shaking, and that gets all the air that's close to their bodies out, and then they close the feathers up again. Or if they're too cold, They fluff their feathers out and hold them that way, and that traps their body heat up against their bodies, just the way a down coat does on you. Do you see what looks like straws in her feathers? Those are actually brand new feathers that are growing in to replace feathers that are getting frayed and old. All birds do this. When they grow in like this, they're full of blood, so we call them blood feathers. Eventually, the blood is cut off, the feathers dry, and the white sheath that looks like the straw comes apart and falls off, and the feather that's inside it will unfurl. When great horned owls are hungry, they are formidable predators, and they have the tools to get the job done on their feet. Their feet are extremely powerful and equipped with long talons, which is what we call their claws. We call them talons. The truth is, great horned owls are actually pretty shy animals. You can live right near a great horned owl your whole life and maybe never see it. You could hear it, of course, at night, but you may never see it. They tend to be pretty mellow neighbors, not to mention beautiful, and an important part of the ecology of where they live.